How you doing, and welcome to my channel. As you can see today, I'm taking a look at the newest T-1000 2.0 from the Terminator 2 Judgment Day movie from Hot Toys. And just taking a quick look at the box there, you can see it looks quite dark, but it's very reflective box. As you can see, I move it through the light there, you can see more of his face. It's reflecting off my studio lights. So it's quite a cool looking box in the sense that it reflects off the light, and you can kind of see my hand reflecting off the chrome or the Terminator 2 Judgment Day text. It's all kind of chromed, very kind of like in theme with how the T-1000 looks when he's in the polymetallic alloy, or
mimetic polyalloy.
That's the one, Arnold. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's quite a cool looking box. Just having a look at the side there, you can see it's quite bland, quite blank. And then on the back we have the usual information about Hot Toys and their locations and the warnings. And then if I just take the slip cover off, you can see that we have the figure and all of those accessories. There is a heck of a lot with this figure, you know, 3 different looks for him, so there's a lot to get through, and this is going to be a long one, guys. So without further ado, let's get him out of the box. I usually do a pan down at this point, but because there's 3 different looks from him, I'm going to skip that part and go straight to the accessories. Okay, so here we have all of the accessories that come with the Hot Toys T-1000 2.0. A lot of them are pretty much identical to the 1.0. I'm just going to get this head sculpt out of the way because my camera tries to focus on it all the time. This is the alternate head sculpt. We'll be taking a closer look at this a bit later on, actually on the figure, so we will move on to that a bit later on, but I just want to move it out of the way for now so it doesn't affect the camera. Moving up from top to bottom, I suppose, we'll have a look at his bladed, or his hook arms that, you know, grow out of him. Anybody who's seen the movie knows exactly what these are. Because he's made out of liquid metal, he extends his hands and they become these hooks, and he uses this in a couple of scenes in the movie where he opens up the elevator, or where he latches onto the back of the stolen police vehicle that the T-1000, John Connor and Sarah Connor, escape in when they leave the mental institution. Painted quite well. They look nice and shiny, nice and chrome. They are all plastic. They're not metal or die cast or anything, but they do the job. There is a couple of hideous seam lines in them that I'm not a big fan of. Hot Toys could have done better on those seam lines. You know, they are, you know, visible. But we'll have a look at them on the figure a bit later on. You know, you can see where they blend, where the blue is, where they blend into the sleeve of his uniform. So yeah, we'll have a closer look at them on the figure a bit later on. And then we have a sword or a stabbing straight blade version that he uses, you know, that grows out of his hands, and it's featured in quite a lot of scenes in the movie. I expected to get 2 of those though. I don't know why, but I expected to get 2 of those. And then we have these magnetic pieces here, which are his battle damage that magnetically attached to his chest, because there's metal underneath on the body, so they magnetize just like the 1.0. You can see these ones here are doubled up to replicate kind of shotgun rounds or shotgun blasts, because they are so big. And there's a bit of weight to them, as I said, because there's magnets on them, and there's 2 more here that are made to replicate the kind of shotgun blast that Arnie holds. And then we have 3 small bullet wounds to replicate maybe, you know, handgun rounds, you know, 9mm or 45s. And then we have his hands. And as you can see here, we have 11 hands here, quite a nice array of hands here, and so many different gestures we can do with these hands in so many different poses. Just taking a closer look at this one here, and you can see that it is painted quite well. You can see that there's some vein work in it. You can see that it, you know, the detailing is really nice. You can see the creases in the knuckles, and I have to say, Hot Toys, in the last couple of figures I've gotten, this and the Han Solo, the hands look absolutely fantastic. The detail they're putting in the hands now, they've really upped their game with them. You know, we have these open palmed hands, we have two left and right trigger hands, we have the hands to replicate him, how he's running when he's running. We have two hands here that they're almost like fists, but they're not quite gripping hands because they're closed. You know, the thumb is connected to the index finger, so they're just kind of like an almost fist. We have his, you know, very famous finger wagging hands that he, you know, the gesture he uses just before he gets blown up and dies. And then we have two of his extended finger hands, you know, or, you know, the call for John fingers, as I'd call them. And, you know, we have one longer than the other. This one's slightly longer than the one before. I think he uses his left hand in the call for John scene, so this would be the call for John finger, really. So lots and lots of options for posing him, you know, which is absolutely fantastic. And then we have his handcuffs. Very nicely done. They do open and close, as you can see there. They actually do work. They're fully functioning, and a nice little chain on them there as well. They're plastic, but the chain is made out of metal. It's actually a metal chain, so they hang quite naturally, and they absolutely look the part. Then we have what appears at first glance to be his MP5K, but, you know, in kind of Die Hard fashion, anybody knows the lore for Die Hard, it does look like an MP5K, but you can see just in Die Hard, it doesn't have the paddle mag release in it. There's no paddle mag release, which I don't know if that's just left out on the mold, or if in Terminator 2 they actually modified HK94 to look like an MP5K, just like they did in Die Hard. They made the HK94 look like an MP5. So I don't really know whether they just left that paddle out in the mold, or whether in the movie they actually modified the HK94 for the scene. You can see that the mag does come out there, and there is some rounds in it, the only moving part in it other than the sling hook at the back. So all around looks the part. Charging handle doesn't work, which I'm kind of surprised at, but it does absolutely look the part. It looks absolutely fantastic. And then we have his Beretta. Is that an M92F? I think it's an M92F he uses in the movie. It's present in quite a lot of scenes, and we have a functioning magazine there. Does the slide work? Yes, it does, which is nicely done. All black. Both weapons are all black. You know, there's no weathering on them. Obviously, you can see the markings on the MP5 for the safety in full and semi, but there's no weathering on them, no dry brushing or anything. Then we have his motorcycle helmet that he wears in the movie about halfway through the movie. And it's identical to the one from the 1.0, or how you put it on, it's identical anyway. You split it in half like so, and you put the glasses on, and then you know, put it onto the bottom, and then clip it all back in very carefully. It's a little bit delicate. I'm a little bit scared, just waiting for that click. Very shiny, very glossy, has all the right details on it, has the badge on the front of it there with the, you know, the eagle on it, and it, you know, and it has the buckle for under the chin, which is actually doesn't adjust. It's glued in a specific position. Then we have his biker jacket that he's wearing with the helmet, you know, that one outfit. And it's made of, feels like a polyester. I'm not sure what material it is, but it feels like a polyester. It has all the correct badges on it there. You know, you can see it does have the Los Angeles Police written on the sides of it there. And it does have the LAPD badge on the front as well. And it actually says badge number 572. I wonder how accurate that is. I'd imagine it is accurate. I've never looked at that closely at the movie to see if it's badge number 572 or not. And obviously the zip pulls open. It's a bit tight, to be honest, but there we go. And it is lined as well. There's a nice little bit of lining in it. Completely looks the part. We'll have a look at that on the figure a bit later on. And then moving on, we have his police utility belt. And that is genuine leather. That is a real leather belt, which is absolutely fantastic. Just let me pop that part back on. Yeah, the belt is made out of real leather. That is absolutely fantastic. It's about time they started giving us real leather belts. And you can see he has all his accessories there. His gun holster. He has his pouch for his handcuffs. He has a radio that does come out, and it has some details to it as well, which isn't necessary, but it's there nonetheless. And then we have, just let me get that back in, we have his torch there. Does the torch come out? It looks like it does come out. I don't know why you take it out, but let's see if it does come out. Oh, there we go. There we go. The torch does come out of its placeholder if you so choose. Let me just pop that back in there without breaking anything. And this has come off again. And then we have his extra mag pouches, which I would have liked to have had a couple of extra mags there. You know, a bit of a missed opportunity from Sideshow. Couple of extra mags would have been absolutely fantastic. And then we have his boots that he's wearing when he starts to kind of glitch, when he becomes one with the floor, when he's walking through the refinery at the end of the movie. They both have, you know, parts of the galvanized flooring on them. This one here more so than the other. But unfortunately, Hot Toys didn't give us the galvanized floor on the base. So it looks a bit odd using these boots on the diorama base that they give, because it's absolutely just not the right floor for this effect, which is, you know, they could have give us a panel to put down, you know, what would that have cost? Then we have a pair of socks to go on with, you know, when he's wearing his patrol uniform, his police uniform. He's wearing those shoes at the start of the movie, so we get the socks to go with these shoes here. And again, we'll have a look at these in closer detail. I'll go through all of the accessories in closer detail when I have them on the figure. We then have his motorcycle boots that he's wearing, you know, when he takes the motorcycle off the police. And they're the same as the other boots, but they're not, you know, damaged. They're not melting into the floor. Solid plastic, you know, no wash in them. Again, we'll get into more detail again when we have them on the figure. And then we have his Patrolman trousers, which are slightly different to the trousers he's wearing when he's riding the motorcycle, because they don't have the white stripe down them, and the pockets are slightly different, and, you know, just a couple of little details that are different. But again, we'll have a look at these on him when I go through the different looks throughout the review. So there we have it for the accessories, guys. So what I'll do is I'll go through him in all the different outfits as he starts in the movie and progresses through, you know. I think that's the best way to do it. Okay, the two accessories that I left out, guys. There's that many accessories that it was bound to happen. We have his little pen that goes into his shirt pocket, and it does have like a little molded in like clip for going onto the shirt, and it does have a little button there. I don't know why I just tried to press that button, but yeah, it's one whole mold. Very difficult to see there, guys, but he does have this little pen here that just goes, there's a little hole in the shirt that it does actually pop into, as you can see there. And looks, you know, it's just a little detail that's nice to have. Now, unfortunately, I've nearly done it there, guys. I'm gonna have to get a pair of tweezers. If you push that pen too far in, you're never getting it back. There's no stop. The pocket is longer than the pen, so if if you push that pen too far in, you are most definitely losing that pen, so be careful. But they have put a little hole there for the pen to just stick out of, which is a nice little attention to detail from Hot Toys. And then we have his sunglasses that he's wearing when he's in the motorcycle outfit. Very, very shiny on camera there. Not as shiny in hand, but very shiny with the studio lights, you know, beaming down on them. The frame of them is a little bit thicker than I'd like them to have been, but thicker means stronger. So I think Hot Toys were making sure that they weren't, you know, gonna break very easily, because I do believe the ones from the 1.0 were prone to breaking. So, you know, they do look like the glasses he's wearing, and we'll have a look at them on the figure a bit later on. So there we go for those last pieces. So here we have the figure standing pretty much how he comes out of the box. This is usually where I grab the figure and go through the details of him, but as I said, I'm not gonna do that right now, because as he comes out of the box, he's actually an amalgamation of both the looks he has from. I know they say he has 3 looks, but the third look is just a combination of the first 2 looks. So, you know, the bottom half is the motorcycle outfit and the top half is the patrolman uniform. I understand why Hot Toys pack him like that in the box, because this is more in theme with the base. This is how he looks at the end of the movie, you know, when he's in the refinery. So, you know, I can understand why Hot Toys present him like this in the box, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to switch him out to his complete patrolman uniform, and then switch him out to the complete motorcycle outfit and go through the details one at a time. So what we'll do now actually is we'll have a look at the base, and as you can see there, it says Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Slightly out frame, guys, sorry, but I would have liked to have been able to take this nameplate off just to add to the realism of the base. Let me move this crotch grabber out of the way. And you can see there that we have an LED light up base on it to make it look like the molten metal, you know, underneath it. And it absolutely looks fantastic. You can see the different shades in it, the oranges and the darker colors and the yellows, and, you know, just to look like that molten metal. And it looks incredible. There's one little weak spot at the back there, but the rest of it is really illuminated. It's, you know, it looks absolutely fantastic. There's actually a glow off it. It does emit a glow off it. It looks absolutely fantastic. It's very powerful. It's all made out of plastic, so it is quite light. And there is a bit of depth to it as well there. It's, you know, it's thick enough. It's quite raised up. And then we have the rails, you know, that are featured in the refinery, and you can see they're dimpled. There's kind of dimples on them. They're not just a smooth surface. There is a bit of detail to them, and they, you know, they look quite well. And then we have chains here, and they are actual real chains. They are actually metal chains, and they just give that bit of weight to them to make them hang that bit more naturally. And then we have the black and yellow paint on the bars at the top, and I really would have liked to have, you know, gotten a hand to go on them that was that color, the black and yellow, like, you know, that scene in the director's cut or the deleted scene from when he's glitching. It's just a missed opportunity. I think that they could have added that, you know, the part where he's morphing into the rail in the movie. They gave us the boots from the deleted scene, so I don't know why they didn't give us that hand. So there you have it for the base. So what I'm gonna do is switch him into his complete patrolman uniform, and we'll go from there. Just something I want to quickly point out, guys. When you get him out of the box, like all Hot Toys, he has this neck protecting plastic over the neck to stop the material, the dye from the material, from bleeding onto the neck in the box. So you have to take the head sculpt off to get this, or to change studio the head sculpt. That is a pain in the to get back on. Absolute mayhem to try and get this on, because of all the stitching and how it's stitched the t-shirt and how tight the t-shirt is on his neck. It, you know, and the stitching on the inside has this overlap on it as well, which is making it a little bit more difficult. a bit more difficult to put on. It's an absolute hot mess inside the collar of that t-shirt. It's I'm gonna have to open it up, open up the shirt to get more access to putting the head sculpt back on it, without breaking these little snap buttons there. And it's just a bit of a mess there. It's I don't know how else Hot Toys would have done it, to be honest. I'm not, I understand, but trying to get his head back in over that t-shirt is an absolute nightmare. I know the lighting isn't great there, guys. I didn't want to whitewash the t-shirt out, so it's a little bit dark. But trying to get his head back on without pinching that t-shirt it's virtually impossible. It's really difficult to do. You have to basically maul the t-shirt. You have to put your hands all over that white t-shirt, the collar of that white t-shirt, to get the head sculpt on. There's no getting it in otherwise. There's no getting it in without pinching the t-shirt in. I can get it on there, but look how bad that looks. I have to start pulling at the t-shirt to get it, to get it all in, to get it on right. It's an absolute hot mess. It's a real nuisance to get on without mauling the white t-shirt. Look at that in there. That looks dreadful. I don't know how else Hot Toys would have done it. I really don't. It's just one of those things. But the stitching, the flak on the stitching on the inside is a bit of a nuisance. I think they could have done that a bit better. But it's a hot mess in there. It's a really difficult thing to do without having to maul that white t-shirt. And I know some people wear gloves, but I don't think you'd be able to pinch it right with the gloves on. So you do have to kind of maul that t-shirt and pinch that t-shirt to get it all, back on properly. Just something I thought I'd point out. Just while I'm changing his outfit as well, guys, I want to point out that there is an undersuit. It's not padded. There's no padding on the legs. There might be a little bit padding on the top part of it, but the bottom part doesn't. But there's no way of knowing about the top half because this uniform shirt doesn't come off, because you can see there it's actually attached from back to front and the crotch area to keep it all in place. And there is no actual removing that shirt unless you snip that piece at the bottom. So, just to let you know that there is no actual taking that shirt off to see anything underneath unless you snip that part. But it is, it's nice that it keeps everything pulled down and tight and doesn't create any bunching up, or there's no fear of it shifting out of place or anything. So again, I just thought I'd show you that. So here we have him in his full patrolman outfit, his patrolman trousers, his utility belt and his black shoes on. So in my usual fashion, we'll start from bottom to top and we'll have a look at his shoes. And they're one complete black mold, they're big, one lump of plastic basically, very, very high gloss, but they're really lacking in detail. I've seen third-party shoes that are on par with these shoes, to be honest with you. The lace is high gloss, just like the rest of the shoe, where I think they could have put a wash or something in there to dull the laces down, just to make them look like laces. There's no weathering in them. I'm not sure if that's necessary, but the detail, even the relief in the mold is a bit lacking. It's a bit lacking. There's not really much depth to that, design, the stitching part or the lace, or they're a little bit bland. And I do see a little bit of a mold line up the side there. It's not supposed to be there because it's not on this side here, but it is on this side here. I'm not sure if the camera's picking up on that, but yeah, there is a little bit of a mold line there. It's subtle, but it's there nonetheless. Not overly impressed with the shoes, to be honest. They serve their purpose. They are a high gloss shoe, just like they were in the movie, but I would have liked to have seen a little bit of a wash in the lace and a little bit more detail. Like I said, yeah, it's just not, it's not absolutely fantastic. It's nothing over the moon. So yeah, a bit more realism would have been a bit of wash in the lace and that. Moving up to the trousers, plain navy trousers. The first thing that sticks out with me on these trousers though is this part here where the stitching kind of overlaps a little bit. I do have to keep twisting the trouser around. It keeps trying to make its way around to the front. There's an overlap in the stitching there, which it's a little bit unsightly. It's not a deal breaker. It's not a huge deal, but it is there, and I kind of would have expected something slightly better from Hot Toys. Just a bit more of a neater overlap on the stitch. Maybe I'm nitpicking, guys. They are a very nice material. You know, they're kind of a polyester-y kind of nylon, not polyester, but they're not cheap polyester. The stitch isn't too bad all the way up to them. It's just a slight little overlap towards the bottom. I'm not sure if the camera's picking up on that or not, but there is just a little lump of an overlap, which isn't exactly ideal. Around the back, we do have the pockets that are present in the movie. If I just show you there, you can see, you know, it does have the 4 pockets. They're not exactly accurately sized because this body is so small. You can see they attach at the back there. They don't velcro up at the front. It's a great idea by Hot Toys to velcro them up at the back as opposed to the front, you know, just to avoid seeing that unsightly velcro patch at the front that we used to see in the older figures. It's all very neat at the front there, as you can see. It doesn't, you know, there's no unsightly joins or velcro sticking out. It looks great. Again, functioning pockets at the front, but his hands would be way too big for his hands to go into those pockets. A little bit off scale there. I think it's a combination of his hands being ever so slightly too big and the pockets being ever so slightly too small because of the size of the body. I know there's been complaints about the hands being overly sized, and when he's in this outfit like this, they do look slightly oversized. They're not obnoxiously oversized, but they certainly wouldn't be fit into those pockets, but they're not, you know, they're not hideously oversized. But we have his, moving on to his belt. He has his full leather utility belt on with all his, you know, attachments on. Obviously, the attachments are plastic molds. They're not leather. We have his torch there and his mag pouch there. And like I said, they missed an opportunity to put a couple of spare mags in. You can open them all up. They do have little nubs on them there. You can see I've holstered his sidearm. And it was, you know, rebuckling that was a bit of a nightmare. They're on these little nubs, the same with the belt there is on that little nub, which wasn't, you know, it was a little bit difficult to get you know, trying to get those 2 little metal pieces in as well as the black nub was a bit of a nightmare. It's a really good idea for them to make them out of a real leather. If that was made out of pleather, guys, it wouldn't last very long. The stretching and pulling that you have to do to get it on, it wouldn't have lasted as a pleather belt. But all the attachments, again, as I said, they're made out of a soft rubber, and you can see they're on those little nubs there. And my fear is those nubs are going to break off. You know, they will open up and close, but I do have the fear, you know, that the nubs are going to break off. So, yeah, you know, it took me forever to get the holster buckled back up, and I do think that nub is going to eventually break off if I just open it back up again there, if I can get this open without breaking it. There we go. The little nub there, as you can see on the holster, is most definitely, you know, you know, if that's forced too much, it's going to break off at some point. I've had figures in the past like that the nub just eventually ends up breaking off. Trying to get that buckled up was an absolute nightmare. I don't even know why I just unbuckled it. So moving up to the shorts, it's on point. It looks exactly like it should. It looks, you know, exactly like it did in the movie. It has Austin written on the name tag, exactly where it was in the movie. We have a police badge here with the badge number 572. I don't know how accurate that is, as I said, but even if I look back at the movie, I probably wouldn't see it. I'd probably have to look at stock footage or stills, you know, or screenshots. The buttons are all in the right places. It looks absolutely fantastic. And the press studs that hold it all together, they are hidden quite well. there's no real seam in there. Maybe the top one pokes out a little bit, or if you turn it to the side. But for the size of them, they're so small, they blend in quite nicely, and they are painted navy. They're not, they're not right in the way. People were complaining about the stitching in the shirt, guys, and I'm not sure what all the complaining was about. The stitching around the pockets it's a little bit off, but it's not. It doesn't warrant all those complaints that I was, hearing or reading or seeing. I'm not sure what all the fuss was about. Just let me lighten that up a bit, guys. It's been a bit dark there. It's, the stitching to me is all pretty neat. It's not as bad as people were claiming. All round, the Patrolman uniform looks absolutely fantastic. I've no complaints, no major complaints anyway. All the attachments look great. I'm not sure if those attachments are in the right place. I'd have to look back at the movie. I think a couple of those attachments are in the wrong place. I'll have to look back at the movie, try and get them a bit more accurate. But, we have the short collar then. The short collar should be a little bit more open. In the movie, it's a little bit more open. You can see that t-shirt there, that white t-shirt. And it's a little bit high up on his neck. In the movie, it was a bit lower. And in order to kind of, as I said, changing the head sculpt there, you have to absolutely maul that t-shirt. And you have to be careful not to mark that t-shirt up, unfortunately. But opening the collar up a little bit makes it a bit more accurate. I could see that material that they've used for the white t-shirt yellowing as well. It's like a spandexy kind of, stretchy material, and I can see it over time yellowing if it's not looked after. But the collar does need to be opened up a little bit. If you look back at the movie, it's a bit more opened up. And then he has these, I forget what you call them, little lapels at the side there, and you can see the buttons at the front there as well. And looking very close there, those buttons actually have little stars on them as well. It's hard to tell on camera, guys, but those buttons do have stars on them, which is a fantastic attention to detail from Hot Toys. And the ones up here as well do have the stars on them as well, which is, it's just amazing to get that kind of fine detail into them. It's absolutely fantastic. I'm really enjoying this figure. Overall, the plainness of this uniform isn't over, it's not anything fantastic, it's not wow, but the more bits and pieces you add to it, the better it gets, and we'll get into that a bit later on. People are complaining about the body as well, being too skinny, being too thin. I disagree, guys. I think the body looks absolutely spot on for how thin Robert Patrick was in the movie. He was so thin when he played the role of the T-1000. I do have a bit of a gripe with the neck peg gap there. It does kind of create a little gap, especially on this side here. You can see it pinching in there. It's not so much on the left hand side, but it is on the right hand side. The left is fine, but the right, it just sinks into the gap where the neck peg goes, so it's a little bit of a nuisance, a little bit unsightly. But apart from that, so far so good. I'm quite satisfied with the proportions. With that clothing set on, the hands look very small, or very big, should I say. Just while I have him here, I'll just attach these bullet wounds on him, and they attach to pretty much anywhere on the chest that you want them to, or the stomach area. And there's 9 of them in total, and if they don't attach, they have a tendency to try and attach to each other. And even up on his shoulder there, as you can see that last one I put up, there is quite a wide space. Quite a lot of them is metal underneath there for the magnet to stick to. They keep trying to stick to each other. It's a little bit annoying, but that's a little bit busy, guys. There's a lot of bullet wounds in him there. I don't think I'd have him with all of those wounds in him. Fantastic. I just kicked my camera, but I'm going to tone that down a little bit, guys, just to be able to see the damage, the battle damage, the the liquid metal there, but you can see there all the metal attachments to him there, and they look pretty cool. They might come out a little bit further than they should. There's a bit too much of a relief on them, you know. They were part of his body in the movie, you know, so I think maybe Hot Toys could have made them look a little bit more flush with the body. On the shelf facing forward, they look fine. They look absolutely fine. It's just from the side, they look like they come out a little bit too far. But, you know, that's a lot of bullet holes in them there. I think it's a little bit busy. I wouldn't be using all 9 of them. It just looks way too busy. I think if you were to use a few less, it just might look a bit more acceptable, a bit more, you know, less bunched up and less overcrowded. So there we have it for the magnetic attachment parts on the body. And just while I have them in this outfit here, I suppose what I'll do is I'll take the hands off. Oh, these have a tendency to jump about the place. But what I'll do is I'll just get these hands off, and we will grab his hook hands and try. Do they have a peg in them? Oh no, they do have a peg in them, but this part is supposed to come out as well. Yeah, this part is supposed to come out. The whole peg is supposed to come out. Okie dokie. And they just slide up onto his arm, just up the sleeve. And it's not pegging in for me for some reason. Why is that not pegging in? I don't want to force anything. Whenever I get a new figure, you know, when I'm trying to work out what's flat, that won't peg in at all. I don't want to force it. There is a peg in there, but it doesn't seem to want to peg in for me, and I don't really want to force it. So what I'll do is I'm going to do it off camera, guys, rather than risk breaking something. So give me just a second. And there we have him. That's his hook hands on. Finally I got them on. A little bit finicky. You can see that they kind of blend in with the sleeve of his shirt, kind of. I'm being a bit generous there to say that, you know, but it's satisfactory. They're almost the right colour. You can see how they blend in with the sleeve. They're acceptable. They're not perfect, but I don't know how Hot Toys would have done it any other way, to be quite frank. I'm not a big fan of the seam line that's running up them there. You trying to hide it there, you even have them at the top there, so I think Hot Toys could have done a better job at, you know, hiding that seam line or getting rid of that seam line on them. But there you have him with his hook hands on, and I think that looks pretty cool. And while I have him here, actually, because I have more confidence in doing it now, I'll just switch it over to his bladed hand, and you just got to kind of rotate it up and keep twisting it while it's on. A little bit of pressure and it goes in, and you have your bladed hands on, and that to me looks absolutely fantastic. It looks amazing now. The more bits that you add to this plain uniform, the better it looks, you know, because it is quite bland on its own, and a lot of people were giving out about it being so bland, but I think they were overlooking the fact that you could stick, you know, the battle damage to his chest, you can put his bladed hands on, so it looks absolutely fantastic. I'm struggling. I got to the point where I was struggling to decide which way I was going to pose him, so I've actually ordered 2 more of these guys to get all three looks for him. I am a big fan. I have all the Terminators, so yeah, so that is it for those particular pieces there. That is really looking the part now. That looks absolutely fantastic. I'm quite happy with everything so far. You know, I'm quite happy with how he's starting to look there in that police uniform with those bladed hands on and the battle damage. So quite impressed so far. You know, quite happy with how he looks. Quite happy with the scale of the body. So there we have it for the uniformed officer look, and let's move on and have a look at the motorcycle look, at the biker look. And here we have the second look from the alternate look from the biker outfit. I'm going to just remove this firearm, and here we go. As you can see there, this look here is a bit more intricate than the Patrolman uniform, the one we just looked at. There's more bits and pieces on him, so I will start again from bottom to top, and we'll have a look at his boots. And again, just like the shoes, they're just one blob of black, glossy black, one complete black mold. There's no wash in them, there's no weathering in them, there's no articulation to them. They're extremely glossy and shiny, and just like the shoes, the laces are also gloss black, and the laces up here are gloss black as well, which is a little bit of a letdown, to be honest. It's a bit of a shortfall for Hot Toys to do that. I think they could have made those boots look a bit more realistic looking by just putting in a bit of a wash in the lace to dull them down a bit. And the same with the laces at the front, just to create some sort of separation between the lace and the boot. They still look the part, they still look fine. I'm still happy enough with them. You can see there is the detail of the kind of the folds in them where they would be folded as he's walking and creased down, and there's a bit of a ripple in the front of them there again where his toes would be flexing. So, they're not an absolute write-off. You can see at the back there's a little bit of a ripple in them as well. I just would have liked to have seen a bit more detail, a bit more separation between the gloss and the laces, the glossy effect on the laces and the stitching area, and maybe a little bit of weathering on the bottom, but not the end of the world. They still serve their purpose, On the trousers, obviously, they have the biker white stripe running down them, which, signifies the difference between them and the Patrolman ones. Stitching looks absolutely fantastic. There's no defects in the stitching as far as I can tell here. Same with the stitching along here. It looks absolutely perfect. I've no issues with the stitching whatsoever. On the front of them, it looks absolutely fine. And just on the back here, you can see it has a patch on the back of them there that the biker trousers would have, just for extra durability while sitting on the saddle. And again, the separation, in the stitching it's all really, really nice. I don't see any stitching, issues. And you can see on the back he has all his separate pockets, and he has a smaller pocket here and a little back pocket here. And the same on the other side, another back pocket here and a small pocket here. So all the pockets in all the right places. And as I said previously, I'm not sure if all these accessories are in the right place. I'd have to look back on the movie. Pretty sure that torch isn't in the right place. But again, I'd have to look back and just swap them around if necessary. As I mentioned before, the belt here is a really good job that it's made out of real leather. It was a bit of a hassle to get on with all this stuff on, and I had to stretch it and pull at it to get it on right. Up to the jacket is made of what feels like a polyester. I'm not 100%. Feels kind of like a good quality polyester, I will add, if it is polyester. It looks like one of those jackets. It looks like the jacket he was wearing. It's very tight on him. Again, it fits him quite snug, as it did in the movie, I suppose. So I'm not really complaining, but you can see here where I've lost a little bit of paint on the zip, because the instructions tell you to unzip the jacket to put it on, but what the instructions do not tell you is that getting the zip back up, getting the jacket zip back up again, absolute nightmare. Now, some people might make it, it might be easier for some people than it was for me, but for me, it must have took me about a half an hour to get that zip back up. And I ended up taking some of the paint off the zip, just trying to get it to zip back up and to get it to re-zip up. It was an absolute nightmare, guys. Not something I'd like to be doing, on a regular basis. I'll probably take this jacket off and never put it back on again. Like I said earlier, because I have two more of this figure on the way, I'm going to put one on him and never take it off again. It just an absolute nightmare. It was very stressful to get the zip back up, back on. So yeah, there was a lot of effing and blinding going on while I was trying to zip that thing back up. It was really, really stressful, and I can't stress that enough, guys. If you are going to be unzipping that jacket to put it on, be prepared for a stressful time. As you can see on the side there, we do have, you know, all the correct insignia on it as we went through during the accessories part. It has his badge there with the badge number on it there. It's the same number on the shirt and the jacket, isn't it? Yeah, it's badge number 572 on the jacket and the shirt. So they kind of match up. Again, more on the insignia on the side. It does have an elasticated waistband, which is, you know, it's a nice little detail. It punches up a little bit in the back, but just due to having to foot it, I think, to get it all right. But yeah, it absolutely looks the part. It fills him out a little bit more as well. For anybody who's having issues with how thin the body is, or, you know, people giving out about the hands being too big, when you have this jacket on him and the helmet on him, it makes everything look more in scale. So when I put this on, I understood Hot Toys' dilemma as to how big to make the hands. If they'd have made them slightly smaller, they'd look too small for this look, and they look a slight bit too big for him without the jacket on. So I could see there was a dilemma there for Hot Toys. Just let me get this camera up a little bit there while we have a look at the helmet on him there, the helmet and the glasses. In order to get the helmet on, like I showed you, you do have to split it in half. Take the head sculpt off, split the helmet in half, and put the bottom part on, and then clip it all in. Put the glasses on first, actually. Again, I had a bit of hassle trying to get it all clipped on. I was afraid I was going to break something getting it on. And the trick I found for anybody who intends on doing it is to do the back clip first, and then bring it into the front and clip it all together. The first time I tried to do it, the glasses almost broke on me. They were under a bit of pressure because it was such a tight fit, and I was afraid of scratching the head sculpt as well. This part here, the strap, can't be adjusted. It's all glued in place. And as for the glasses, they're not translucent. There's no seeing through those glasses, which I think that's on point. I don't think you could see through. They were fully mirrored glasses in the movie, so you know, that is kind of right, you know, for the glasses in the movie. You know, if they'd have made them translucent, you wouldn't have got that chrome effect off them. The frame of the glasses, as I said, is a little bit thick, but like I said, thicker means stronger. So, you know, they don't look too bad on the figure. It's not the end of the world that they're a little bit thick. It still looks the part. It all fits him nicely, and it looks really good on him. I think it all looks absolutely fantastic. And obviously, because he has the glasses and the helmet on, you're exposing just the nose and the mouth, and it just really looks like Robert Patrick in those scenes, because you're just seeing the nose and the lips, which just absolutely look like Robert Patrick's did back in 1992. So yeah, and the detail on the helmet as well, guys, the badge there with the eagle on it, you know, it all looks on point. And the visor on it is really gloss black as well. Even the white part is extremely shiny. There's a high gloss off it all. It looks absolutely fantastic. So there you go for the complete figure, you know, with all of the biker gear on him there. And, you know, just like the police uniform, you can actually add, you know, the battle damage to him if you like. You know, you can add more bits to him to make him look like he was shot. Again, it's nice to add those little bits and pieces to fill him out and make him look good, you know. And we have these boots here. Actually, I'm not going to put those boots on him yet. I'll have a look at them when we switch over to his next outfit, you know. I'm just going to switch around to the back of him here, and what we're going to do is we're going to unbuckle this clip, because I do want to put his handcuffs in here. This is his handcuff holster, and I do want to pop his handcuff. I just want to see if they fit in, really. So let me just grab them there and slot them in. And are they going in? Yeah, they kind of are. It's difficult to do with one hand, but yeah, they are slotting in. But getting that rebuckled up is not something I'm going to be able to do on camera, I don't think. I think I'm going to have to do this with two hands, you know. Any figures I've ever had in the past with those little knobby bits on them, the knob has just broken off, and I'm afraid that is going to happen. As I push down on that to clip it in, the knob itself, the little knobby bit, does actually bend down as well, so I'm having a little bit of trouble doing it on camera. I'd need to kind of take the belt off maybe and do it with both hands, because that is an absolute nuisance to do. It's not really complying with me whatsoever. No, I can't seem to get that to buckle in. Have I got it? No, I don't. No, like I said, the rubber knobby bit just keeps distorting as well. These things are a real nuisance. These little knobs, they're just a real nuisance to get to fix back into place. I'm gonna have to do it off camera, guys, and get that buckled up off camera, because it is a massive pain in the ass to get this. Yeah, I'm absolutely struggling, guys. It's not something I entirely recommend, undoing these. It's the same with the holster as we went through already, but you get the idea, guys. It is possible to get them buckled up. I'm just gonna have to do it off camera and not bore you guys. So what I'll do now is, that's the complete kind of motorcycle outfit. So what I'll do now is I will just no, that didn't work out for me at all. There we go. So what I'll do is I'll switch him into his final outfit, which is the outfit he's wearing in the refinery, which is an amalgamation of the two previous outfits that we've looked through. I'll stick the other boots on him there and a couple of bits on him that we haven't seen. So here we have his final outfit that he's wearing in the movie, and you can see I've swapped out the head sculpt there just to change it out a little bit, and a couple of different hands on him there. But before I get into the details of the boots, because there's not much different here about him that we're going to be able to go through, just a mashup of the two previous outfits. But something I'm going to point out that's really, really annoying, more so annoying than the short collar. Maybe not as annoying as the zip on the jacket, but this is really annoying me for aesthetic purposes. Once you lift his hand anyway, you are really exposing a serious amount of joint there. No matter what way I lift his hands, any kind of way, you expose a serious amount of joint there, and it is hideous looking. You can kind of see how big those hands are, when he's not wearing the jacket. They look a little bit, his wrists look really small. It doesn't look natural there at all, though. The more you bend it, obviously, the more joint you're exposing. And, this pose here, as cool as it is to be doing, the pose he does at the end of the movie where he, where he does that, where he waves his finger. You can't really pull that pose off successfully without exposing a hell of a lot of joint, which is a massive bummer, massive letdown. I'm absolutely disgusted with that, to be honest. Like I said, when he's wearing, the cop uniform, towards the end of the movie, I'm starting to believe, not so much with the open palmed hands, or even these hands here, but the closed fist kind of hands, they do look a little bit oversized, as you can see there from the side a minute ago. They look ever so slightly oversized when he's wearing just this cop uniform, not the motorcycle uniform. But even when you put his hand up even just that much, you can see all the joint there. It's really annoying. I'm not a fan of that at all. You kind of got to keep his hands down at his sides, if you want to hide those joints. So that kind of limits things, and it's a bit of a nuisance. I just thought I'd point that out, guys, before we move on to the boots. It's a major letdown, to be honest. Looking at his boots that he's wearing, guys, I'm gonna have to bring that light down there. There's a lot of shine off that. That's almost blinding. Just give me a second to try and get this down a little bit so you can see some of these details and not be blinded. I'm gonna have to kill one of my studio lights as well, I think. There we go. That's kind of the best I can get it. You can see there that we have his battle damaged, well, not battle damaged, should I say, his galvanized, let's say, his galvanized boots. This is from a deleted scene in the movie where he starts glitching after he's been frozen with the liquid nitrogen, and you can see that his boot is starting to become the floor, you know, the galvanized floor with the pattern in it, which the effect is really cool. It looks really, really nice. It's a nice little detail that they've added. It's a different look for him, especially for something that was in a deleted scene or a directed cut, like I said earlier on. Like I said, I would have liked to have seen a hand with the yellow and black paint on it. You know, that would have been nice, a nice little feature for them to add as well. I mean, if they're going to add this deleted scene foot, why not add the yellow and black hand, you know? I'm not sure how they would have pulled it off, but it's Hot Toys. I'm sure they'd have found a way. You can see this one here isn't as damaged or isn't as you know, galvanized as the left one. This is kind of, this one here is the centerpiece for that particular look. You know, with the grating on it. That has gotten very dark, guys. I'm trying my best to find a happy medium here, but there we have it for the boot that he's wearing when he's glitching, when he's trying to, when he's becoming the floor. He also has a belt on him there, a real leather belt on him as well, but apart from that, it's all pretty much the same. I can't get over that t-shirt. It's a bit of a nuisance. I'm starting to, I don't know whether my eyes are deceiving me or not, but I'm starting to think it's already going yellow, to be honest. I've changed the head sculpt 3 times at this point, and I have had to maul that t-shirt, so I don't know, maybe my eyes are playing tricks on me. But just having another look at those hands there, we'll have a look at this Call to John hand. Let me just put these lights back to how they were. You can see the hand there, it looks just slightly oversized from that angle, you know, but once you raise it up, you just have a huge problem with exposed ball joints. So last but not least, guys, this has been a long video, but last but not least, let's have a look at these head sculpts and get into the details. So here we have the kind of primary head sculpt, the head sculpt that comes on him out of the box. The full Robert Patrick portrait, as you know, as you can see there. And I'm gonna say it is a bit of a downgrade from the prototype. It's a slight little downgrade. It's not a huge downgrade, but it still looks absolutely fantastic. The one thing they did get right is his ears. They're definitely Robert Patrick's ears. They do stick out just the right amount. The cheekbones and the shape of the cheek is all pretty much on point, and the lips are perfect for him. The skin tone is absolutely perfect for him. You know, from different eyes, looking at him head on, I see him least. The minute I start turning his head a little bit, that is Robert Patrick all day long. I think it's just looking head on, you know, that I have a bit of difficulty seeing the likeness. But once you just turn it a little bit, it looks, you know, it looks absolutely uncanny. As I turn it there, as you can see there, I just see him more and more. It looks really, really good. It looks like Robert Patrick in 1992. The side profile looks like him. They've got his ears absolutely spot on. The shape of the ear is just absolutely spot on for Robert Patrick's oddly shaped ears. No offense, Mr. Patrick. And just as I bring it round to the back there, I just want to point something out as well. See if I can get it a little bit lighter there and see if you can see it yourself there. There we go. The seam line where you take the back of the head off is almost invisible. It is, I'm just going to use this finger as a pointer there. In my opinion, it's the best molded hair seam line I've ever seen. It looks absolutely fantastic for taking the back of the head sculpt off, for gaining access to that moving, you know, the rolling eyeball function. The seam is absolutely, well, almost invisible. It is pretty nicely done. I hope Hot Toys keep that theme up and hide that seam for the back of the head sculpt to come off, as you know, for future figures. I will mention, you know, I'm just thinking here about the Bruce Wayne head sculpt from the Batman or the Dark Knight Rises Armory. is absolutely atrocious, and that is quite a recent figure, so they obviously took on board a lot of those complaints and done their best to hide it. Just let me tone the skin down a little bit, because I did brighten it up, and he's not supposed to be that pale. And we'll have a look at his hair, and the sculpt on the hair is absolutely fantastic. It looks great, it looks wavy, it looks just like the hairstyle he had in the movie. You can see the blend lines, there's a little bit of a wash down the center, you know, in the creases. I shouldn't have brought that light down, you know, while I was looking at the hair. Let's bring it back up again. You can see the waviness to it. You can see the you know, the sides, the way it blends in. It looks absolutely spot on. From, is it a little bit darker than it should be? Quite possibly. I'd have to look back at the movie, but I just feel like the hair color is just a little bit too dark. I don't remember it being that dark a brown. I think it might have been a shade lighter than that. But the shape of it, the hairstyle, the hairline that they've got in it is absolutely spot on for how Robert Patrick looked at the time. I've no complaints about, you know, the hair styling anyway. It looks fantastic. So very, very happy with this head sculpt, especially with the motorcycle helmet on. It looks absolutely fantastic as well. So there we have it for this head sculpt. We'll move on and take a look at the secondary head sculpt that he has with the hole in it, the battle damaged one. So here we have the alternate head sculpt from, you know, I can't remember what scene it is. Is it right at the end of the movie where Sarah Connor shoots him in the face, isn't it, if I'm not mistaken? And we have, you know, what some people have been calling it the glory hole eye, or the glory hole head sculpt. I personally have no idea what they mean, so I'm not going to call it that again. I'm just going to call it the battle damaged eye. You can see there, you know, I'm going to use his finger as a pointer again. You can see there is a lot of detail in that there. You can see all the rippling effect, and very close you can see there is some bits of the liquid metal, you know, running down into the skin tones, you know, blended into the skin tones, just coming through just under here, and even down as far as here, and all the rippling effect all around it in almost a kind of a perfect circle, you know, as it would be, as it should be, as it was in the movie. And it looks absolutely fantastic, the detail that's in there. And if I turn it around to the side, you can see how much relief it has coming out of it, you know. It comes out quite a bit, you know, that splatter, you know, that happened in the movie. And you can see at the back of the ear there where it is all still rippling around to the back of the neck. So the detail is absolutely fantastic. And even all the way through the sculpt, you know, is all rippled all the way through. The whole sculpt has this rippling effect all running through. And then it continues on up, out and around the back, as it should. And again, even at the back there, how it does come away from the, you know, from the head, from the sculpt. So there is a bit of relief in it. And just what I have at the back there, you can see how you take this section off, just to gain access to the single one, you know, rolling eyeball that he has. You can just see the knob in there for the one eye that he has, that, you know, you can move. And that is absolutely fantastic that they've added that feature as well. It's, you know, it's great that you can move that one eye, because in that particular scene he is like staring off to the side after he gets shot, you know. So this joint here isn't as seamless as the one on the other sculpt, and that's obviously to do with the battle damage. It's still one of the better ones. It still looks fine. It's not as invisible as the other one, but it's a massive improvement on some of their older figures. And again, looking at that side profile there, you'd never tell that he has that massive injury in the side of his face until you turn it around. And that is just incredible. That is an absolute masterpiece, if you ask me. I'm really happy that I'm getting a couple of these figures here, because if I wasn't, and I only had the one figure, I'd be finding it very difficult to decide which head sculpt I'm going for and how I'm going to pose them. So there we have it for the battle damaged head sculpt. Again, the skin tones look absolutely incredible, you know, and again the hair is exactly the same as the previous head sculpt. So there we have it. So that's it for the Hot Toys Terminator, or T-1000 from Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Really long video, guys, my longest video to date. Please don't hesitate to hit that like and subscribe button, guys, and take care and keep your eye out for future content. Thanks a lot.